This is entry 1 of Expedition Handheld. I'm Adam.
I'm Russ, and we're going to be your guides on this journey of handheld discovery.
Each week, we're going to take you on an adventure through the world of handheld gaming.
Buckle up. This is Expedition Handheld.
Yes, episode 1. Entry 1, whatever we want to call it. Number 1. This is the first real one, Russ. The announcement was made this morning as the time of this recording, so it's out there. It's official. How do you feel?
I'm feeling good. Honestly, I was most nervous about the intro we just did because I thought, that's the first time I have to say something that's been pre-written. Everything else, I'm good now. So
we're listen, we maybe we need to practice a little bit more. Do a couple more episodes. That's okay, but we got it. We got through the first one. That's
absolutely
the hard one, right?
Yep. Exactly.
Man, we have a lot of good stuff to talk about today. We've been sitting on so many topics for months that it's like I wish we had the time to go through the backlog, but we got to focus on some important stuff, including some breaking news. I'm excited to come into entry 1 of Expedition Handheld with legit breaking news.
Yeah,
we're gonna get to it. You're gonna want to stick around for it. But before we do, is entry 1. We talked a little bit about in entry 0 of how we started, how we wanted to get into this kind of stuff. But it got me a little nostalgic. Not only for the first time we met, Russ. We talked about that in the last one, but also just my journey. Personally, my first handheld was a Game Boy, and I just ever since then I was just hooked on handhelds. But professionally, I've got a little bit of a story.
I want to hear it.
Which I kind of didn't fully dig into in the last episode, but what happened was my coworker Elena and I did a live stream where we configured a Raspberry Pi. I don't remember which version it was at the time, maybe like a 3 or something like that.
Okay.
To do a little emulation thing. Like we got like a little, we had bought like a little NES or SNES case and put a Raspberry Pi in it, try to learn how to put games on it and emulate or whatever. And I think you've had this happen before where when you do some sort of coverage, a lot of times you just get put on a list somewhere and people start sending you stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I'm going to assume that's where it started, but in my mailbox here at work, just unsolicited, I think it was this one. I think this is the one that started it all for me.
Oh.
I think the BitBoy for audio listeners. This showed up, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool! It's like a little retro emulation kind of thing." Runs. I mean, I don't even think I knew it ran Linux. Actually, I don't even know what it runs anymore. But yeah, I was like, "Oh, this is kind of cool." And then I started looking into it, and I was like, "Wow, this is a whole cottage industry poking up." And the next one of the next ones I got, I don't think it was the exact next one, was the Pocket Go.
Pocket Go, yeah.
This one had a USB-C. Yeah. I was like, oh, wow, look at that. Neither of them power on, unfortunately. But yeah, I ended up writing reviews for PCWorld.com. And I'm not a writer at all, but I was so excited to talk about these things and kind of cover them that I ended up doing a handful of written reviews. And unfortunately, I don't think they exist on the site anymore because we've gone through some purges of low performing articles, if that's any indication. But yeah, then I just started getting a ton of them, and I was like, oh man, there's too many coming out now. I can't even keep up. And then that's when I turned to people like yourself to pick up the slack and be like, yeah, you know what, Russ is going to look at them, right?
Yeah, so funny story. Both of those came out before my time. I didn't get started until, mid 2020. Those came out prior to that. So the BitBoy and the Pocket Go are the same company, and it's the same company as Miu now too. So the Miu Mini and all those, that's all the same company. They've been at it forever, and so the BitBoy is one of their first, and that's why it's actually very similar in shape and feel to the Miu Mini, the original one that came out in 2022. And so yeah, really neat. You got pieces of history right there of a company that is now a lot more legit and kind of one of the bigger players in that cheaper handheld scene. But back in the day, man, yeah, that was kind of rough. And so yeah, I have the BitBoy. Someone sent it to me to do a retrospective with at one point, and so I've used it in videos and stuff, but I never owned it at the time. So
yeah, I have a box of these over here. I should catalog them at some point. But I remember one of the things that I did praise about this at the time was that it had a replaceable battery.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing because I just opened it up and looked, and it's a little spicy. It's starting to bulge just a little bit.
Hello.
So yeah, luckily I have one of those fireproof pouches that I put my spicy batteries in. So I guess I need to do that for this. Unfortunately, well, no, actually, there's a replaceable battery in the Pocket Go as well. Oh, no bulge. Okay,
nice,
cool. That's the other part, is just like I feel like we're there's so much churn in our space. Actually, not even just handhelds. All sorts of technology all sorts of reviews. I hate that everyone is always just so focused on the brand new thing. Like, I really like doing like going back to something after 6 months, because you don't know at launch if it's going to have a spicy pillow.
Right. Exactly.
And now I do. But I mean, I guess that's what 2017, maybe 10 years. So I guess it's not that bad. But.
Still, one of the nice things too at that time too, they were doing that a lot with those replaceable batteries, and they're all off the shelf. Like, you can just go on eBay and put in the numbers for that battery, and you can find a replacement, because it's for some camera or cell phone or something from back in the day.
Commodity hardware. Cool. It's great.
Okay, now that we got the intro stuff out of the way, Russ, let's get to the breaking news. I feel honored that we literally have some breaking news to talk about here on the podcast. And as far as I know, nobody else has this information too. So, maybe an exclusive, if you will, however you want to call it.
Sure.
I do want to call out, though, if it sounds different and looks different, that's because we're actually refilming this section. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, and then today when I woke up this morning, I got even more context. So we were like, let's redo this section with the new context.
Yeah.
Oh, and people are saying, okay, well, what is the context? Get to it, Adam. Well, you might have heard that there was rumors going around that the Legion Go 1 was not going to get support anymore, and maybe this means all of the Ryzen Z1 chips are going to be dropped by AMD as well. Is that what you were hearing, Russ?
Yeah, I saw it on a Reddit post. So it was like it was kind of a game of telephone at the time, because it was a translation of a South Korean customer service text or email or something that basically said that someone was asking for updated drivers for the Legion Go 1, the Z1 Extreme chipset, and they were saying, oh no, we're no longer supporting that because AMD is no longer providing driver updates for the Z1 Extreme. And so that was basically what the translation I saw, and then people just blowing up about it. And it makes sense, of all the handhelds that I feel has had a hard time getting driver support, it's been the Lenovo Legion Go 1. We've only had a few updates since it launched about 2 years ago. So it all kind of fell in line, but it also felt a little bit fishy to be so close to the launch of this device, and then also they just released a Z1 Extreme version of the Legion Go S. Like, how would they drop support writ large? That didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, so I put on my journalism hat, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to reach out for comment. So I emailed both my USPR contacts for AMD and Lenovo. I have not heard anything back from AMD, but I did get an official comment from Lenovo. So to start off the chain, there was I asked for comment, and my PR rep was like, hey, you know what? I looked into it. This looks like a non-official statement, quote, an ugly rumor kind of thing. But let me get back to you with an actual approved official statement from Lenovo. So I'm going to read this off. This is the official statement from Lenovo. Quote, support for the Legion Go 1 has not been discontinued. Lenovo is actively continuing to support the Legion Go 1 with necessary driver and BIOS updates, and will continue to do so through October 2029. Lenovo is working in concert with AMD on driver update cadence, and new updates will be released once they have passed Lenovo's rigorous review protocols, end quote. I will have this quote flashed on the screen as well, so you can kind of see how they spell out Legion 1. I skipped over the 8.8 kind
right.
of thing. But yeah, so essentially, this is Lenovo coming out directly saying, no, it's going to continue to get driver updates. They're going to continue to work with AMD. And they put a hard date at October 2029. So I think there's a couple things I want to dig into here because they're kind of interesting. Like you said, the Legion Go 1 has not been the most heavily updated handheld out there. So they're saying they're going to continue to support it through 2029. That's That's pretty
That's
crazy.
a long date. I was expecting 2027 maybe, you know what I mean? Give it a good 3 years. I was kind of thinking that, you know, especially the way that these handhelds move, you know. But 2029 is a lot later than I was expecting. I don't really know what's good, like long-term support for PC products. Like I'm just not that well versed in this whole world, but that seems better than I was expecting as a user and a consumer.
Yeah, and I think we can go into maybe expectations or what we'd like to see or hope to see kind of stuff in a minute. But I can't think of another major vendor like Asus or even the Xbox Ally with Microsoft like having hard dates on support like this. Have we ever heard?
I've never seen
somebody
anything
come
like
out
that
and
with
say
a
that.
handheld.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Okay, and
I
so
will say that. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just going to say that part of it to me is like, okay, yes, you say up to this date you'll provide support, but can you provide more support, please? Because like that's the thing. Like I've been waiting forever for driver updates for like integer scaling with the Legion Go 1 in particular. That 8.8 inch screen is awesome, 1600p, which would be a perfect integer scale for 800p gaming. Now you can obviously turn down the graphics to 800p either through Windows Desktop or through the game itself, but it doesn't look the same as actual integer scaling. And you can use tools like lossless scaling to do that. But AMD has that protocol already in some of their software. It depends on the product, obviously. But for laptops, that's an option that you can have. The weirdest thing about the whole AMD thing is that it doesn't work for external, or it only works on external screens. It doesn't work on a laptop in particular. So it's a really odd thing, but it's one of those where I've been waiting forever for Lenovo to kind of have that communication with AMD and figure that out. So as much as I like the idea of the long date, I also want to see some production up until that time in 2029 as well. If they just say they're going to provide support, but then we don't see driver updates, then what good is that number?
Well, I mean, I think there is a discussion to be had between what they're claiming here, which is once again necessary driver and BIOS updates. Like, what is deemed necessary? Is your integer scale deemed necessary? I don't know.
Right.
So, like, I think there's a difference between wants to have and nice to have kind of thing. Like wants to have, I read this personally as like, oh, if there's bugs or mitigation fixes that need to be applied, like something that like will seriously affect your device, whether the security or the performance. That's how I read that. That doesn't necessarily mean like, oh yeah, we're going to continue to add new features. Right. Through 2029. So like, I mean, it's not discounting it. I'm not saying they're saying no, we're not going to add new features, but like having that necessary word in there makes me think it's a little more that way. And like you said, I mean, it hasn't been the most supported device out there. I mean, it hasn't been the worst, to be fair. There are plenty of those Shenzhen-based companies that I see people talking about all the time that are like, oh wow, I bought this thing on Kickstarter and it arrived and I like got one update and that was it.
Right.
So and it's broken, right? Like at least I feel like the Legion Go 1, sure there's some nice to have things, but for all accounts that I can tell, it's a perfectly working device. Like there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. And to their credit, to their credit, I think that what they're typically doing is they're getting these driver updates from AMD and then they are making them work on their device, right? So that's what they're talking about with their rigorous review protocols, right? And of all the handhelds out there, the Legion Go 1 has got to be a tricky beast to actually work between like the handheld, like the actual detachable controllers and getting all of that to work and stuff. So I feel like they have a lot of work cut out for them in terms of getting those mainline driver updates working on the Legion Go 1. So I understand why those updates are few and far between, but man, I'd like to see them still. The portrait, like the display itself is portrait orientation. They have to, scale it over to be landscape. So all that they have to do on their end.
I mean, but though I think there is a little bit of a difference between what they're getting from AMD, which has nothing to do with the detachable controllers and stuff. That's obvious Lenovo's thing. The stuff they're getting from AMD are graphics drivers, right? And here's the other thing that I probably going to get some hate on this, but like I actually like, even if AMD were to stop, like that's what everyone's theorizing, like, oh my goodness, the Z1 series of chipset is going to die, and maybe that means all Radeon 890M device. I think that's the right number. No,
790M.
Whatever the number is, like that means they're all going to stop getting driver updates. Let's pump the brake a little bit, because a lot of these driver updates are for like primarily for brand new games coming out that need some sort of optimizations. There we go. That's the right word. So rarely have I seen driver updates, mainline driver updates that come out and it's like, oh, like finally we've fixed all the performance for this 5-year-old game. Like boom, like usually driver updates. Like that's why a lot of companies like claim a day one driver with whatever X new game is, and so that's the other thing is like. I personally usually try to tell people that if you're going to get into handheld gaming, you probably shouldn't be relying on playing the latest and greatest anyway. Like if this is your only gaming PC, sure, maybe, make it work. But like I have a link to the Steam hardware survey or whatever, the top played deck games. So this is the top 100 games for the Steam Deck in the past week that Steam reports, and like you have to get all the way down to number 14, which is Cyberpunk 2077, to get anything that's like really heavy duty on the device itself. Most people are playing lightweight games that don't really need huge AMD driver support unless something's broken, of course. The newest game on there is at the top of the list right now, Mugenics. But man, I can't imagine like anybody was like, I gotta get my day one driver for Mugenics. Something's off. So like. I also tend to feel like, hang on, guys, like it's in a good spot. It's not like even if AMD stops driver support that it's just not going to work in new games or anything like that. Like it might not be as optimized, but then again, like the handhelds aren't really optimized for huge new game releases anyway. So
right. I think what we're seeing more than anything is that we're getting more game optimizations, right? Where the developers of the games are going back and maybe potentially updating things. We've seen that with like Doom, the Dark Ages, where they created a handheld preset, and they did the same thing. Like Cyberpunk has a Steam Deck preset, and obviously Cyberpunk came out well before the Steam Deck did. And so those are some things that I think are probably more likely to see as games start to age, is that maybe the developers who potentially own their own like handheld and they're like, oh, I want this game to run better, and that motivates them to update their own optimizations on their end. And I've always hoped that that's kind of where things go, is that a handheld becomes its own platform standard where people start to target that in their game development. I'd love to see something like that. More Steam Deck presets that are going to work with all handhelds.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I've heard that a lot of driver update, like day one driver patches, are usually good things. Like it's like the developer was so busy getting the game out the door that maybe they didn't have time to get to optimizations, so the device manufacturer did, or the game was optimized for a specific platform, and they're trying to get it to play here, because the only one that this really breaks down as is Intel, right? A lot of stuff is created with AMD processing in mind. The consoles, AMD rules the handheld market are already, and so yes, Intel is getting a lot of new driver updates, but that's because they have I guess you can frame it either a lot of catching up to do, or on the other hand to say like people aren't just targeting that platform, and Intel has a unique kind of architecture that kind of needs those drivers, because if you're building around AMD based systems, then they might have to translate some of those benefits over to Intel. So
yeah, absolutely. That's one of the bigger things I've seen over the past year or so, is like as the MSI Claw was coming out, all these updates are coming out from Intel, and it's very impressive. Like, oh, here's another update. Great, another update. And specifically in their like notes, it would say like these games are now working better, and they're not new games, right? They're just like throwing in games and saying, hey, and I agree with you. I think that it's more kind of catching up to where AMD is right now. So it's great to see the updates, but it's not quite the same thing as an AMD update in my mind.
Yeah, and actually, I've talked with the Intel team before about how they target those kind of updates. But I mean, this was around their discrete GPU line, like the ARC cards on desktop. Yep. So, but it applies to the same thing. It's the same kind of team working on that stuff, and they're saying that usually they'll target something and find a fix for something that didn't really work on that architecture, and then just by chance it'll also, that same kind of fix, that translation will apply to 20 other games. And so they're systematically chipping away and fixing one thing that has a cascading effect to a bunch of other games. So yeah, it's those driver updates from Intel are like, oh, we have this one thing that we figured out and we applied, and it applies to all these other games as well. So they've got a lot of more work to do, I guess,
right.
on that one. Yeah. They're in a good spot. I'm not saying they're in a bad spot, but
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's probably one of my favorite things about these Intel updates is that they've been transformative for the MSI Claw, the original one in particular.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I first reviewed that, it was pretty rough. But I still own the one that I bought, and I still update it every once in a while and just try it out. I'm like, wow, this is actually really getting somewhere, which is good.
Well, speaking of the MSI Claw, I mean, one of the things that we saw with the original MSI Claw was it was a rough launch in terms of performance, right?
Yeah.
Performance isn't what we expected when reviewers got in our hands, all that kind of stuff. And so what came to light seemed to be that the Intel and MSI team, maybe there wasn't communication, or maybe there was some cross communication, or whatever happened. They weren't in lockstep, because that's the other part of it, though, is that AMD, even if they released a newer driver, the device manufacturer still needs to implement that and go through the testing, like mentioned in that, and also apply it to whatever system that they have. Because yes, the Z1 Extreme in one device is the same exact chip and theoretically the same exact drivers as Z1 in another device, but the cooling solution could be different, the power profile implementation could be different, all that kind of stuff. And AMD tries to work with the manufacturers to make things a little bit more common platform, I guess. But at the end of the day, it's up to the companies to implement it. So the fact that Lenovo is the one coming out here and saying, yes, we're going to continue to have support, is good, because the inverse, actually, I would say bad, because even if AMD came out and said, hey, you know what, don't worry, we're going to continue to support Z1, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter unless it's going to be implemented by the devices themselves.
Yeah. Well, I think that leads to like the other aspect is, if you're kind of like me, like I'm a bit of a skeptic when it comes to expecting these companies to provide long-term support. You can always take that into your own hands, right? So if you just go on Reddit, there is like a whole community in the Legion Go section that will tell you how to update to the latest generic AMD drivers for that particular chipset, and then how to get all the stuff that you broke working again. And so there are ways, if you want to DIY it yourself and you want to have the cream of the crop, the most latest drivers from AMD, you can do that on your own. Like, that's there. It's just going to take a little bit more work, and obviously you have to work in the world of bugs at that point. And then the second thing is that, you know, there are other operating systems that have driver updates all the time, including Linux-based OSs, Bazite, and whatnot. So there are other ways, if you want to take matters into your own hands, that you could potentially get more driver updates too.
It doesn't excuse them, obviously. Like, it's not like they should put out a device and be like, it's fine, the community take care of it. But yes, it's not like it's DOA. And once again, even if Lenovo didn't come out with this, and if AMD never has another driver update, that Legion Go is still in a good spot. It's still going to continue to play your games. It's fine. Relax, everybody, to a certain degree. The last part I want to get to, though, is like, what do you think should be normal? Because like we're both kind of looking at this October 2029 date and being like, whoa, that's actually pretty big. We did not expect that. So like, what do you feel like is a good area support, where you're like, you know what, that's just enough. It's not too much. Yes, of course, everyone would like more, but you know, at some point the company can't keep going.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to say, just because, I'm so unfamiliar with it. But for me, just as a user, right, I have a Legion Go 1. I bought it myself. I update it periodically. I always check in on it. And I personally would expect from a larger OEM like Lenovo, I'd expect 3 or 4 years, like minimum support. And I think that's pretty good. At that point, you know, there's a point of no return where they're just moving on to other platforms. I mean, they've already got 2 other handhelds out after the Legion Go 1. 3 or 4 years to me just sounds fair for the amount of money I paid for it.
Yeah, and once again, that's talking about like updates, not fixes. Like, if there's literally something wrong, then they need to address that. I would say up to like, I mean, especially I remember back, you know, like when there was those huge, what was it called? There was those security risks that happened years ago that like ended up like Intel and AMD had to go back and update like processors from way far in the past just to try to get everyone safe and stuff like that. Like, at that point, you know, like if it's a big security risk, you should have support for at least a decade, you know, or more for that kind of stuff. So it's a little separate. The The other part of it is support from AMD. What do you think? Take the device part of it outside. What do you think's a good release cadence or a good time frame for AMD to continue to support for their drivers?
Yeah, so again, I feel like I'm kind of speculating just as a more casual guy, but I feel like I don't know how these things work, but I feel like if there are updates just to the drivers in general, that it'll trickle down. Like I'm assuming as they work towards new tools, updating FSR and everything else, that they will kind of fall in line with some of their older chips and GPUs that they support too. So for me, I think that the support should be a little bit longer than the device itself, just because there's such a wider range of different platforms using those chips in particular. So yeah, I mean, if I had to put a number, I'd say like 6 to 8 years at that point for a GPU. And again, like there's going to come a point where, sure, there's probably not people actively working on like improving the driver situation, but if there's anything that gets broken by virtue of a new game coming out that, just kind of breaks the way that game particularly works with those drivers, then yeah, I would expect the AMD and the game developer to potentially intervene and try to find a solution.
Yeah, I think I would almost think I would change it a little bit different on the vendor, to tell you the truth. Like AMD, I feel like is in a pretty mature spot for the handheld devices because they've ruled the roost here. I think Intel definitely has more to do. Like they've gotten a long way. They've come a long way for sure. But like I think Intel is probably going to need to have longer term support just by nature of the fact that they're not the lead platform for the handheld stuff. To play devil's avocado on the other side, though, this is something that we've talked a lot about on the desktop side on my other podcast, The Full Nerd, about desktop gaming, is that AMD has been in hot water before on this. And usually the pushback is that, hey, we're not the size of NVIDIA. We don't have the huge team to, we don't have the market share either. And so we as an organization need to put our resources in places that make the most sense, right? The handhelds, as much as we love them, and I'm here, that is not the big part of the market.
Sure.
They need to make sure the consoles are fed. They need to make sure that laptop stuff is fed. The desktop GPUs as well. That's all different. And then also they're trying to push new technologies going forward. Obviously, they have not taken the veil off of RDNA 5, but we know it's coming. We know it's part of the new consoles that are coming up. I'm sure it's going to be awesome, and so they're having to sit it back with a limited amount of resource and being like, okay, well, we got to keep going forward with this stuff. Like, how much actual attention can we go back and pay to this stuff? Like, you have to rob Peter to pay Paul at some point. And so, as much as we would love it and to be like, well, why not both? It's just not how business works that way. And I think that's a hard one as well.
Yeah, it's really hard to attach a number to it. You know what I mean? Because it's like going on record and be like, oh yeah, this is how much time they should give. But it's such a dynamic thing, and so many things are changing and moving all the time. Yeah, it's really hard to say, but I just think it comes down to trust and whether or not AMD is going to care enough about their products to, potentially give it that longer term support, which I think just helps their brand in general. I think that will work with anything that you release. As you make new stuff, work on the old stuff too, give it an update, and make sure everyone knows that you still love all that old stuff too. So yeah, it's really, I think
the harder part too, though, is that AMD in a lot of ways have always played catch up to NVIDIA. And so they try to prioritize front facing stuff because they're just they got more to prove. And I actually feel on the desktop side they are closer than they've ever been. I'm gaming on a RDNA 4 GPU right now in my home theater PC, and it's awesome. It plays ray tracing really well.
Nice.
The FSR 4 when it's implemented can look really good. And so I don't know. I just have this feeling that AMD is putting all their head down and trying to really work on RDNA 5, not only for desktop but for consoles and all that kind of stuff. And so the RDNA 2 and RDNA 3 and RDNA 3.5 handhelds that are out there are just like, they're good. We don't need to put as much attention into them unless there's a major issue. So who knows? That's just pure speculation, though. I have not heard back from AMD. I'll try to press them again. I was actually thinking I should probably reach out to Asus to see if they have any comments, things like that. Given the light of this, I wonder if we could maybe hold the other vendors' feet to the fire as well.
Yeah, I mean, you send them an email. Hey, Lenovo says 2029. What do you guys say?
Yeah, what do you guys say? Yeah, make it a bidding war or something.
Right,
like that.
exactly.
So, anyway, big topic, and once again, like this feels really cool to have at the launch of Expedition Handheld. So
yeah, episode 1. That's pretty cool to have.
Yeah, and luckily, I mean, we do have the resources available to us to reach out to these PR manufacturers. So, like the late great Gordon Mong, he was pretty much always of the mindset of the minute you find either any rumor or news that are out there, just reach out for official comment. And of course, always take it with a grain of salt, because this, they could say this, and then who knows, maybe there's not another update that the Legion Go 1 ever gets. But at least this signals, and it puts something on record for you to go back and reference. So, yeah, good stuff. With that, let's go back in time to past Adam and Russ and continue the rest of the episode.
So to the next topic, let's call it Buyer's Corner. Something like that, right? Where we want to talk specifically about buying advice, because a lot of people do turn to especially you, Russ, for buying advice. And so I think the major one on everyone's head recently is the fact that the Steam Deck is out of stock. Now we're not going to get too much into why. Like there's definitely been talk about that, but really, I think almost all of us have pretty much just defaulted to being like, oh, you're interested in handheld PC gaming? Get a Steam Deck. You maybe you're interested in something a little bit more powerful or bigger screen or higher resolution or detachable controllers. Maybe then go look at other options. But like the Steam Deck has just been the de facto, because what you get for that money is just mwah.
Yeah.
But now people can't get it. So Russ, What do you think if people went out and wanted to buy a handheld right now and they just can't wait? What would you point to people towards?
So I've been thinking about this a long time, just because even prior to the Steam Deck being sold out, they discontinued their lower spec model, the $400 256 gigabyte storage model. They discontinued that like a month or two ago, and so we've already, like, that $400 price point hasn't really been there, And for anyone who doesn't know my channel very well, I'm a cheapskate. Like, I am always looking for deals. Like, it's just part of who I am, right? And so even today when we were talking about this, I was like, all right, let me do some research. And so I pulled up a bunch of ideas, and the first is, okay, brand new, if you're looking to buy a handheld, and we're specifically talking about handheld PCs, those that you can grab and get your Steam store going on or whatever. So the two lower entry models at this point, if the Steam Deck is not there, is going to be at least available in retail with Best Buy or whoever. The Xbox Ally, so the white one, the one that has the Z2 Alpha, I think it's the chip, and then the Legion Go S with the Z2 Go, which is also a lower performance chip running SteamOS, because there's a distinction between the Windows and the SteamOS ones. Both of those right now are $599 on Best Buy, at least when I checked it here today. And so that right there, if you're looking for a brand new handheld PC, I would say that's probably going to be your entry point if you're looking for something that is widely available in most parts of the world. And so what do you think about that, Adam? You got other ideas?
Yeah, actually, I did a video with my coworker Will Smith over on PCWorld's YouTube channel, where we actually debated this kind of topic of saying, hey, I found the Legion Go S Z2 SteamOS version on sale for $500. And so would I rather have that or a Steam Deck OLED, which was still in stock at that time, and it was $550. And so we kind of went back and forth, on the strengths and weaknesses of both. But I actually fell on the side of, I mean, yes, the Steam Deck is the Steam Deck, right? Like that is kind of, once again, the de facto choice for everybody. But me personally, I would get the Legion Go S. Like I like the ergonomics better. It's a bigger screen. which I appreciate. And
Yeah.
so like, and it's a little bit newer. Like performance is like a slight bump over Steam Deck, but it is a newer chip, and you would think hopefully maybe newer support kind of stuff. But I don't expect too much on that end. But so yeah, out of those two, if you're looking to buy brand new right now, I would go with the Legion Go S personally.
Yeah.
So yeah, and $600. Sure, it's not great. It's definitely cheaper than where they launched at, I believe. So that's good, or at least the Legion Go S.
Yeah, and I have seen the Xbox Ally go on sale to $500 as well. I think they did that around Christmas time. So they have had those sales. I don't know if we're going to see them in the future, but we've seen them.
Right, yeah, with the whole Ramgeddon or whatever. We talked a lot about that on the Full Nerd as it relates to desktop PC gaming. But yeah, I do think, and I actually try not to give too many people like direct buying advice kind of stuff. Like I personally like to just put the information out there and say, hey, I don't know your budget. I gave you the information. You figure out, what you want to do with it, kind of thing. But there definitely has been a thing of like, man, with this RAM stuff, I think there is a lot of handheld stock in place right now that is not dried up. And once that is dried up, just like the Steam Deck, we're not going to see these prices again. So like if you really are like on the fence and you're really chomping at the bit to get one, like not to scare you, and I'm not trying to prematurely put money in these companies' pockets, but like this is probably some of the best pricing we're going to see, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So at least for the foreseeable future.
Right. So I actually over Christmas time, before really a lot of this RAM stuff came like so apparent in the handheld space, I bought these devices. So I have the Legion Go S, the Z2 Go one. I've got the Ally, the white one, and then I also have my $550 Steam Deck OLED, and I was going to do a full breakdown, those three and stuff, and I started working on it last week, and lo and behold, I go on Steam, and the Steam Deck's not available anymore. I'm like, well, this takes the wind out of the sails of this in the first place, and so that's kind of on pause, but it is something I'm planning on looking at, is kind of really looking at these three handhelds in particular, if that Steam Deck comes back, as being that really big competition at that middle range, like jumping right into it where you can find it new. But the other point I think to this is that you're going to say something?
Well, I was going to say a couple points real quick off that. Is that number one, like these, I wouldn't consider these bad devices at all. Like,
right.
Like sure, there's some drawbacks like here and there. Like go watch Russ's original coverage and stuff to kind of see some of the intricacies, but like I think overall these are good devices. Like these are not like you're scraping the bottom of the barrel if you really need one. Like right. I think they're good devices. Also, I think you should still do that video even though it's out of stock, because then I think it'll give people, maybe you reframe it like, hey, here's the Steam Deck, and unfortunately you can't get it. So for the same price range, here's what you get in these other two instead. So you're still doing the same kind of comparison, but you're framing it in a different way. Not which one of these three you should get, more like, oh, you can't get this one anymore, so how does it compare to these other two? Yeah, I would want to watch that.
That's a great way of putting it, because in the end, I mean, my videos are mostly entertainment as well, and so it's still helpful, I guess. The way I was thinking about it is like, how helpful can it be if you can't buy it? But it's helpful for somebody to make a decision then and there. Be like, all right, my decision now is not to buy one of these right now and wait for the Steam Deck, or my decision is actually to get this one because it does stack up fairly well with the Steam Deck, even though I was looking at that one. The other big thing we haven't talked about is trackpads, which I don't think either of us use in gaming, but that's like the deal breaker for a lot of people is they need those trackpads. Then obviously get the Steam Deck, but for everything else.
This is a hot take that maybe we get into in another episode or something, but like I actually think the trackpads make the Steam Deck worse. Mm-hmm. Like ergonomically, like I would be okay if they just took them off. Like I don't use them for even anything. Like maybe in a pinch navigation, but there's a touchscreen right there too. Like right. I just touch the screen, so whatever. That's aside. The other tip, real quick, I'll say is that at least for Newegg, not Newegg, Best Buy, I've had really good success with finding open box stuff. And that's really region specific, because that. I mean, it's just everyone has a different kind of stock, but like I was able to pick up the what was the PlayStation Portal. There, I found an open box for like $100 off or something, and a lot of, I mean, it's a crapshoot. You don't know. Maybe it's a blemish. Maybe whatever. But this one like was pristine. I don't even know if this person did anything with it. They just took it back. And the fact that if you get it through Best Buy, then usually you have, and it's an open box. Usually you have some sort of warranty program to be like, you've got 30 days, and if you don't like it, kind of thing. So, like that's always been something that I try to look for too, is like open box.
Yeah, and same thing like the Legion Go S that I have for this comparison. I bought it open box because I saved myself.
Nice.
I don't know. I think I paid like $475 for it. In excellent condition. I mean, it was a great price for what I got, and I don't think there are any scratches or anything on it, so it's great. Another thing is the used marketplace. Like, so the ROG Ally in particular has been out for years at this point. Same chipset on the first two models, same screen on all three of them. So it's a very similar experience. Battery size is different. But I did some searching this morning, and ROG Ally, the original, the white one, which has that anemic 40 watt hour battery, it's going around $375, $400 on eBay average. So that's me like looking at highs and lows. So that's not a bad price. Battery time is like my major concern with that handheld in particular. But then the Ally X, which has the 80 watt hour battery, so they doubled the battery size, going for around $600. Both of these have the Z1 Extreme chipset, so a little bit more powerful than both of the other two options that are on Best Buy right now.
Well, yeah, that one's hard, right? Because it's like, what condition are you going to get it in? Yeah. Or are you going to get screwed over on eBay? There's plenty of horror stories, stuff like that. So it's always hard, but yeah, I mean, like, I do know there's a healthy aftermarket for the ROG Ally, like JSOX, is that how you pronounce it?
Battery upgrade.
Yeah, they have that battery upgrade. I actually, I don't have it, but there was a screen upgrade as well, that I had seen.
Oh wow!
I thought I maybe had it around, but yeah, or maybe I'm thinking of the Steam Deck or whatever. But yeah, so like there are a lot of people who are like trying to get more support or try to enhance it in ways that the company wasn't originally going to enhance it, kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the Ally X. I mean, out of all the Allies, like I probably would go for the Ally X that we're talking about here over the Xbox Ally.
Same.
Though, but like mainly because of the performance kind of stuff, but really at the end of the day, I can't do 7-inch screens anymore, man. Like they're too small. Like it doesn't it's not a deal breaker, but like for me, like at the end of the day, I would still get the Legion Go S over all those.
Yeah, I mean,
just for the screen size.
I made a video a couple months ago where I was like, I'm now using my Legion Go S, the Z1 Extreme one, which has the better chipset, because I got that one on sale for $650 on Black Friday, and that's like, it replaced my Steam Deck, and most of it has to do with the screen. I also like the buttons a lot and the sticks too, but that's saying a lot for me, a guy who has been a Steam Deck ride and die guy for a long time. So that says a lot. Yeah.
Well, that's I would say there's a lot of stuff out there. Get down in the comments. Let us know what you think. The thing I've always been interested in is the aftermarket for more of the smaller companies out there, because I mean, like Neo, they'll churn out so many devices, and I do always wonder like how many of those actually show up on aftermarket kind of deals, and I do wonder like how good of a deal you can get on some of those. It's curious.
Yeah, I did some research on that too. I have over the years, and it's surprising. Most of the time, people pay an arm and a leg for some of those. Like they've got some sort of special gadget or whatever going for them, right? Some new feature, and so a lot of times they'll pay well above what you would expect for something that's a little bit more mainstream and has those larger quantities of scale. And so often they try to get their money back. And so the used prices are also very high because they're like, well, I paid $2,000 for this, so I'm not letting it go for less than 12, And so that's often the phenomenon you'll see with these other boutique sellers, is that they're trying to go for this kind of limited edition. Hey, this is only one of 1,000 that sold, that kind of thing. And so the prices are higher.
Because usually they're smaller runs,
right.
So I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't get it, but whatever. Okay. Well, maybe that is an option, but let us know. Get in the comments. I would love to hear what people think or they would pick out of these devices, or if there's something different that we missed.
Yeah.
Let's move over to another section, topic zone, whatever we want to call it. I like calling this one glowing phosphor. You know, like an old CRT. Actually, funny enough, I wasn't going to show this, but I'm going to show this now. I saved this on the side of the road. For audio listeners, this is a Sony Trinitron. It's a KV1201. So it is, from what I can tell, 1971, a Sony Trinitron from 1971 that I saved on the side of the road here in Oakland, California, and hoping to bring back to life. But I have been enjoying my midlife crisis of bringing back CRTs into my life. So the idea of glowing phosphor is just makes me feel good inside, right?
Yeah, it feels cozy.
Yeah, but we're not here to talk about this CRT. Guess what? Not a handheld. Nope. I'm not gonna hold that in my hand and game on it. But I was watching a really good video by one Russ from Retro Game Core about dual screen gaming, specifically on the AYN Thor. Is it AYN or is it AN?
AYN. So I've been
AYN.
told that it's like the, I guess it's an acronym of some of the names of the founders of the company, I think.
Okay.
But then also I've heard people say it stands for all you need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Marketing. Love it. So good video. Go watch it if you're interested. I don't have one of those on hand, and I've always kind of wanted to like pull the trigger. But you said something in that video that really got me thinking, and I was like, man, you could have made a whole separate video on this topic that wasn't necessarily specific to the AYN Thor. But
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't have the actual wording in front of me, but you were essentially talking about how you play these older devices. Most of the time, you're firing up old games that you've played, hundreds of times,
right,
and just replaying the same levels. And I thought to myself, and I was like, "Wow, okay, I'm not the only one." That's so nice, because every time I get in a new handheld, I usually fire up the same exact thing and be like, "Oh man, yeah, Metal Gear Solid 1, what a great game, and look how well it plays on this one. This is fantastic."
Right.
And so I guess there's two things here. I want to talk to you about classic gaming on that, but I also do want to cover the dual screen gaming stuff, because like I got in the Neo. What was the x86 based of the Flip DS? No.
Oh yeah.
No.
Yeah. The flip. Yeah, they call them the Flip.
Yeah. It was the
Pocket
Flip, but it
Flip
was
or
the one
Flip.
with the dual screen, not the keyboard, because I know they made two versions. And so that's really my only experience with that stuff. And the thing that is stopping me from getting the AYN Thor, and I watch your videos, and you're like, man, this thing's awesome. That was the thing I got to handle at CES when we found each other in the desert,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't remember if I told you at the time or not, but I was like, but I have a working new 3DS XL sitting on my shelf, and anytime I think about getting the AYN Thor, I'm like, oh well, I'm just gonna play like games that I could literally just play on original hardware, and then I just end up playing like I end up not getting it. So like, yeah, what is so special about gaming on original hardware versus up-resing stuff and playing it on the latest and greatest hardware?
Yeah, I think there's always a trade-off there, especially when we start talking about emulation and stuff. And so it's like a balance of when does it tip the scales for you in particular, right? And so if you've already got a 3DS and you are mostly just going to play 3DS games, and you're a stickler for how those games look and feel originally, it's not going to be the same on this Thor. I've got it right here. And this thing is amazing in its own ways, but it's amazing because it's got two OLED screens. You know, the top one goes to 120 hertz. It's got excellent controls for it. It's got actual analog sticks as opposed to a nub that you move around, you know, a slider. And so there are aspects to it that are a large upgrade. And it's not just playing 3DS games on this thing, obviously. It's got enough power. I mean, I've got, other systems showing here. And so that's another thing, is that it will obviously play a lot more than just the 3DS. So those are all like tipping it in its favor, I think, for the Thor, but it really does come down to that original experience. The touch screen on this is a capacitive as opposed to resistive, which is what we're used to with the DS and 3DS, where it's like you put that little nub on it and it like moves a little bit and you can feel that pressure. That's a magical quality that is not on this device at all. And so it really is like this balancing act. And for me, it's about, and I've got 3DSs, and for me, it's about like being able to upscale, playing on OLED, and then just the convenience of having so many other systems at the same time. If I want to play an NES game easily, I can do that on this device too.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a weird balance, because I recently got not the CRT, but I had another CRT that I rescued that is really good, a Sony Trinitron from like 2004. I don't remember the exact model name off the top of my head, but it's a really good CRT, and I ended up buying a PS2 because I sold mine a while ago. It was like, oh man, I'm gonna play old games on it and remember those days. And I was like, wait, yeah, but I have a million handhelds. I could just play these PS2 games literally anywhere. On my phone,
right?
on Android devices, on x86 devices. Also, at the same time, I ended up getting in a what is that? The RetroTink 4K. So I was like, maybe I want to put it on my screen, and I plugged the PS2 into the RetroTink, and I was like, oh man, everyone says the scaler is so good, and it's going to look good on my 4K, and then I played it, and I was just like, okay, I just kind of want to play this on the CRT. Like, yes, I can see the pixels better and they're clearer, and I'm upscaling and all that kind of stuff. But like, something about still playing it on original hardware, just I don't know. It's not as convenient, but man, it is still like kind of the way to be played.
Yeah, it just feels more natural. I mean, input latency is a big deal. Like every time I got a CRT back here, and it's an old JVC, and when I plug my Super Nintendo into that, I put in Mario World, I'm like, wow, I'm a superhero in this game. Didn't even realize it, right? Because I spend so much time on these emulation devices, and I'm adding a frame or two of delay, just inherently as part of the emulators, part of the screen, as part of the Android OS or whatever OS I'm using. It's all there, and I get used to it, and I adapt to it. And then I get into CRT, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm so good at this game. Like, why didn't I know this? And so, there's an element to that.
What is it? Like, is it just the latency stuff? Because I mean, it looks theoretically worse. Like, we can upscale PS2 games now to 8 times the resolution, whatever.
Sure.
There's like fan patches out there. Like, I was recently replaying. I can't remember. It was either Portable Ops or the other PSP Metal Gear game.
Peace Walker?
Peace Walker, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it was Peace Walker. Peace Walker is like locked to 20 FPS, I think it is, or
I think so.
some crappy FPS, and like there are mods that you can go out there, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll put it on my Retroid Pocket and start doing it that way. And I was just like, or I can just fire it up on my old PSP. and it's still, even though it's a worse experience at 20 FPS, it still feels more natural.
Yeah.
Than like having the fan-based mod that fixes it and makes the pixels prettier. Like, what is it, man? I think
it's, you think about like those designers who we put all this trust into, like Kojima or whoever, right? And we got so much trust in those guys. And at some point they said, this is good enough, ship it, right? Like, they approved playing Mario World on the Super Nintendo. They approved playing those Metal Gear games on your PSP. And I think that part of it is that you're getting back into that time machine, right? You're like, okay, I'm back at where it was supposed to be. It's not upscaled or whatever, but that's all just it's fanfic at that point, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? Like, it's somebody who's taking it and running with it and may not have had that same singular vision. And so that's part of it, I think, as well. Good and bad, really.
Yeah. Well, and then I want to hear what people think on this. Are we the only ones that struggle with this? Because yeah, I mean, I understand not everyone can get a CRT and original hardware and stuff like that, because now, especially now, like I look at those prices and I'm like, man, I used to have multiple copies of that PS2 game, like Silent Hill 2. Like I owned like every version under the sun, but I got rid of them like an idiot back in the day. And I was like, oh, what's the worst it's going to be? It's just going to cost like maybe the same price that I paid for it when it came out new. No, it's like 4 times the price.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh crap. So whatever, it's expensive. I guess that's the convenience part of it too, right? But I want to hear what people think.
Yeah,
You know, like,
I think part of it is that we're just different people now. You know, like I don't know how often this happens to you, but I'll take, like, say I've been meaning to play through the God of War trilogy, right, the original, and I'll fire up God of War 1 on PS2, and I'll put it on my Steam Deck, I'll put it on my Odin or whatever, and I'll get it all set up, everything working perfectly, put all the tweaks in and stuff, and I go, all right, I can't wait to play through this game some other time, and then I turn it off and do something else, right?
And
Like,
you end up going back and playing Super Mario World for the 2
Man,
millionth time.
My number one game is Ridge Racer on PSP. That first track, that's it. Like I'm just like, okay, can I get a minute 12 on all 3 laps? Like that's what I do, you know. And it's like, how do I know that number, right? But that's what I do. It's like I've played track 2 before, and there are probably like 30 tracks I think in that game. Track 1 most of the time. Track 2 10% of the time. That's it. That's all I've ever done. 20 years later.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that was where like I'm glad you threw that in your Thor video, because I was like, oh man, I do that too. I guess I'm not alone, because I have that same thing. I got every time a Retroid Pocket comes out, I always get it. I look at your guide. I set it up exactly like how you tell me to set it up, and I'm like, man, I can't wait. I get my ROMs loaded on there, and then I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to play anything. Or if I do, it's just this, Metal Gear Solid 1 or Symphony of the Night. Like, how many times have I played Aria of Sorrow?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a comfort in that. And you know what we're doing? We're buying these devices to play the games, and how we end up playing them it's neither here nor there. You know what I mean?
Sometimes we're not playing games. I think it was the Retroid Pocket 4. I put the amount of time that I put into configuring it was infinitely greater than the amount of time I actually ended up playing games on it. Because that's the one that had immediately, like 6 months later, a better version, right?
Right. No, that was the 3.
Yeah.
The 3 and the 3
Oh, the 3.
Yep.
Oh, that's yeah. So that's what it was, because I was like, okay, cool. Like I took a while to set it up and that stuff, and then it was like, oh, there's a new one. I'll just buy that one. That one looks. Russ says this one's way better. I'm gonna buy that one. So, yeah.
Yeah, it is. That's part of the game itself. You know, it's funny, that Thor video you were talking about, right? I got quite a few comments on, I think it was Reddit, where people were like, this guy doesn't even play games. He's not even a gamer. Look, he's in the intro section of this Zelda game. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But I did also show off like 50 games in the one video, and I can't show you end game progress and everything, you know. So
yeah, whatever.
It is what it is, but it's all fun.
I think that's the other thing too, is that there is a game in setting something up. Listen, I benchmark for a living, and there's a game in benchmarking.
Yeah.
For sure. And being, so, you know, I'm guilty as ever, but also playing it on original hardware, as long as it plays, it just plays. Like I don't have to worry, like, oh, you know what, do I have the right install? Should I be running this on you know, a different emulator, that kind of stuff. Like it's the actual just playing the game is so much easier still on original hardware, even though you make amazing guides, and I really appreciate, you know, reading through them, and it's very extensive. It's still like you make it as easy as possible for me, but it is still like,
it's a game.
You know, it's not like original. It's you just,
right,
because you just put it in, and then it's like, okay, well, you get what you get.
Yeah. No, I totally get all that. And yeah, part of it for me is just kind of getting back to those moments. And the way I see it too is, I mean, we're probably in a very privileged spot where we have access to the original stuff and the new stuff. Some people have never played any of these games before. They just always have wanted to, you know. Sega Saturn is a great example for me. I always call that my magazine console. Like, I used to see that in EGM or whatever, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to play Panzer Dragoon someday, right? Never got to play it, but now I can. And so that for me is like, it's good enough, you know, like it's so cool to basically fulfill all those, you know, preteen dreams.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Well, let's fulfill some dreams of answering some questions. And I'll tell you, when I if you have any questions, I guess I'll put this at the top. If you have questions for us, one of the easiest places to get them in front of us and hopefully discussed here on the show is to go down in the description. There's a link to the Full Nerd Discord. So the Full Nerd Network is essentially PCWorld's network of tech podcasts. We got the Full Nerd Podcast, which is the flagship about DIY desktop PC building. We got Dual Boot Diaries, which is about two longtime Windows users trying to learn Linux. And then now Expedition Handheld lives on that as well. So we have a Full Nerd Discord that brings all these communities together, and there's plenty of overlap, but it's a really good community. We've built a really good place over there, which I appreciate. And we have a channel. If you scroll down on the side, we have a channel that is abbreviated to TEH_questions. That's where you put questions that we will hopefully read on the show, and only questions, please. If you want to comment on somebody's question that's already been asked, right click and hit create a thread and start chatting in there, just to make it easier for everybody. So yeah, we did get some because I kind of teased that we were going to be launching the podcast. And then the podcast is released, and we already have a flood of questions coming in. So we're not going to be able to get to all of them. And honestly, some of these questions, I think we were talking before the show. I was like, some of these could literally just be a full like topic on a future podcast. So yeah. So let's get to the first question from a very dear friend of the show, Woolis. Has a really good question. So for those who don't know, it's Willis Lai, who actually used to work with me, and he had the honor of following me around and having to stop me from breaking things. And he was the camera guy and editor and did some really good work. But yeah, he would always cringe when I would go to a briefing, and one of the first things I would do is sniff the handheld. So his question is to you, Russ, actually. Has Russ ever sniffed a handheld, and how do you feel about me sniffing them constantly? Me as an Adam.
Yeah, so to answer the second part, what people do in the comfort of their own bedrooms is fine by me. Like, I don't really care if
or
Adam sniffs. Right,
do it
exactly.
On the street too, man.
For me, sniffing a handheld, it's interesting. Like, I can definitely tell there's a distinct aroma to the Steam Deck. There is something to that, right? Like, I can smell when a Steam Deck is on. It's strange, because I often will have multiple handhelds, like, around and playing or benchmarking or whatever. I can smell when the Steam Deck is on. Like, it has its own smell. But the majority of what I cover are usually going to be China-based, like low-price handhelds, like those that are from INEO or Miu or, any of these other ones, Ambernick. And most of the time I'm getting them as review units straight from the factory. Like, they are sending them as fast as they can. So when I unbox these things, it has this factory smell to them that is just like, I have to let them air out, and so... I don't really sniff those handhelds, like, that's not a thing for me, because just in the outset they don't smell good. But I 100% fully recognize that the Steam Deck does have its own distinct smell. So I think it's a valid thing to do.
I remember when I think it was the launch of the original MSI Claw. That was around the same time that Valve came out and was like, "Hey guys, don't sniff the Steam Deck, please." And I got one of the PR reps for MSI to get on camera and be like, "Oh, no, it's okay. You can sniff the claw." It's a little counter. Yeah, I guess it opens up for lawsuit, but whatever. No, I don't know. So the thing is, it's not just handhelds. Like, handhelds are like the easiest because it's portable, and literally the fans are usually blowing up towards, you can tilt it and it blows up towards your face anyway. But like, I like just smelling stuff in general. Like, I'm not one of those like super sniffers that can like really pick up a bunch of stuff, but like for me, it like almost. It's there's a term for like babies, like what is that, like when they're always putting stuff in their mouth, oral fixation. It's almost like a smelling fixation for me.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of times, especially for electronics, I will smell something if I'm like, oh, is there something wrong with this? Okay, I'll give it a quick sniff to be like, okay, is there a burning smell? That'd probably be an indication. Or if maybe I'm going to buy something used, I'm just like, oh, I'll give it a quick little sniff. Does it smell like somebody who smoked a lot of cigarettes used this thing? I probably don't want to use that one. So like, it's informational. It's not just for enjoyment. But I don't know. I like the smell of it, man. It's just.
But you are also like an admitted foodie, right? And taste is like 90% smell. So I wonder if there's a correlation there. Like you love food, you love like those kind of things. You like smell in a handheld. Like it's all just, I don't know, a nasal fixation. That's what you got.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm normal. I know a lot of people do it, but I wouldn't say we're normal. I'm just saying, I do it. I'm proud of it. It's fine. But it sounds like Russ is he's got a little bit more of a reserved.
Right. I'm more clinical with it, I think.
Yeah. Either way, it's probably not good. Maybe we'll come back 20 years from now and it's like, oh yeah, I shouldn't have done that. But who knows? That's a future Adam problem. Anyway, we got a funny question in from a friend of the show, Floor Candy, which is a whole separate topic. We don't want to talk about that, Russ. When you're gaming on a portable gaming device, are you holding a handhold or holding a handheld?
Yeah. So he's implying past tense, hold versus held, I guess. Yeah, it is.
It's like a park in a driveway or drive on a parkway.
Yeah. Like it's a funny conundrum there because handheld would imply that it's passively being held. That's why it's the E there. I'm a former linguist in the Navy, and so that's kind of what I'm thinking about here. I see the validity of this question, but I think it's just common vernacular, handheld.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Actually, we have another quick funny one, but from friend of the show, Ivan R. asks, is a mobile phone a handheld? And actually, we got this from a lot of other people, too. A lot of people were curious because I did create a new handhelds channel in the Full Nerd just for general handheld talk. And, yeah, like there was definitely some chatter in there. People were like, well, are phones handhelds? What do you think, Russ?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So I just actually, maybe last week, did a video saying, like, the cheapest handheld might be your phone. And it's the idea of, like, things are so expensive right now. Do you need another gadget with RAM and internal storage, or can you use your phone with a $30 controller? And so, yeah, it's a handheld, but only once you put controls on it. I can't say that something with touchscreen controls is a handheld for me. That's just your phone, and that's just pretend play at that point. But if you slap a controller on it...
It depends the game. It depends the game.
Sure.
But,
okay,
yeah.
Yes. I can play Balatro on my phone without needing a controller, right? Like, that's an easy one, But to be a handheld, I think it needs controls.
Like, yeah, some sort of built-in control. Well... Yeah, well, I guess it doesn't have to be built in because
Right,
there's the
controller.
Yeah. What was that thing that we saw at CES?
The Pocket Taco. That one, or
what?
Which one?
No, the thing that goes the case on the phone. I don't know what you're talking about, man. We're gonna move past that.
No, there's a thing called the Pocket Taco from GameSir where
Great.
you slap it on the phone, and so yeah. But it wasn't that one. I don't know.
Okay,
We saw so many things.
No. It was the one that had the real new thin one that magnetically attaches to the back of a phone.
The M-Con. Yeah.
M-Con, yes, yeah.
Slide out. Yeah.
Or like there's like Backbone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like
so that's
the things that kind of wrap around.
Yeah.
I remember. So I reviewed back in the day because I used to do phone coverage as well back in the day, and I reviewed the very first Razer phone.
Ooh.
And like in my mind, that was a watershed moment. It was one of the very first high refresh rate screens. That thing was built like a tank. It was like for gamers, by gamers, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And they had previously bought in a company that now I don't remember the name of the company, but Razer bought a phone company to start this initiative. And those original phones from that company had made a big splash. So I was like, oh man, Razer's really got something here. Obviously, it didn't end up going anywhere. But they had a phone case that you could put into that had external controls. It wasn't good. It was the Switch style, like slide plastic kind of things in. So the idea was that you had this like bulky case on, and then when you wanted to put controllers on, you slide them into. But they were super tiny and just like, oh, they weren't good. But that was like, they really did. You got to give credit to Razer on the phone stuff, and I think a lot of people don't realize that oh, Razer had a phone, and yeah, it was a really, really good phone. And it had front-facing speakers, like stereo front-facing speakers on the front. So the audio was
rare,
awesome.
yeah.
Like, yeah, I still have that phone. Actually, you know, I bet I still have the case with the controllers as well. But yeah, like I think more people should know that was kind of like early on for phone gaming.
Sure. And, you know, Razer did a handheld. You know, they released a handheld, the Razer Edge, and this was a few years back. And it is essentially just a phone with their Razer Kishi wrapped around it that doesn't have phone connectivity. And so you can pull the thing out. It was like a little mini tablet. I reviewed it. I did an updated review on it. And it's a pretty solid machine. My biggest downfall with that one was that they took that typical phone screen size, a 21:9 aspect ratio, which does not play well with a lot of gaming. You know, you think about even playing a 16:9 game, you know, streaming from your computer or from the cloud. You're just going to have these big black bars on the side. And then when you put on a 4:3 game, oh my gosh, forget about it. You got more bezels than game at that point. And so that was one of the big problems with that one. But yeah, they've always kind of been in the forefront of trying to push this idea outside of the handheld space that I usually cover. And I appreciate that kind of insight too.
Yeah. All that said, though, I don't really play any emulated games on phones. Do you at all?
No, not much. You know, I am an iPhone user, and so they now do have, like, you know, whatever. They now do have RetroArch and PSP on there and stuff, and the Delta emulator. So you can play your games on your phone, your iPhone, but it's still not something I do. But I also have, you know, hundreds of handhelds at my disposal at any given time, so I'm probably very much so an edge case.
Like, I almost feel like we should run a poll. Like, I am curious to see how many people, like, their daily handheld is their phone.
Yeah,
because I bet it's actually more than we would think if I had to guess, because we're just so invested in like dedicated handhelds. But
yeah,
I don't know.
I think it's also that place of privilege that we were talking about before. You know, some people just don't have that other option. So
true. Yeah, and also I think like companion devices, right? Like the Pocket Go, right? You're not going to do anything other than gaming on here.
Yeah.
This is very much a companion device where theoretically, like a Legion Go S, I mean, it is a computer. You could literally do computer stuff on that. So is it dual purpose? Like a phone is dual purpose, right? It's like, I mean, I guess the Razer Edge is a little bit of a different case, but like, is the purpose of your device just a game, or does it have dual purpose? So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Let's take another one real quick, and then we can get out of here. Friend of the show, Master Procrastinator, asked, I bought an RK2020 over 5 years ago, and it's too tiny and uncomfortable to hold. What should I do? Use my Steam Deck to emulate games, or somehow shrink my hands and fingers? Which is funny, actually. I also had, during this review period of handhelds, the RK2020 was one of the ones I reviewed as well.
So yeah, background on that is the RK2020 is one of the first Rockchip RK3326 handhelds. There was a ton of those that came out. In fact, they're still making them today. You can get them for like $30 on AliExpress. So there's probably been at least 100 handhelds made with this particular chipset. And RK2020 was one of the first ones, and it is also unbranded but made by BitBoy and Miyu. So those same people that made those other two handhelds that we were showing off at the beginning of the podcast, they made the RK2020 as well. There was a whole slew of them at the time. The Ambernic RG351P, the Odroid Go Advance was like the one that really started it all. That's from a company called Hard Kernel out of South Korea. So they're the ones that started it all. They like came up with this like concept of a handheld that would be a tinkerer's kind of dream on the Linux side. And the hardware was not great, but then other companies like Ambernic made some that were clones of that because everything was open source, so they could freely get all the schematics, and they're like, all right, we'll make our own and then sell this one for more. And so that's how that whole industry got started. And that's where I got started, was the RG351P.
Yeah. No, I mean, like a really good chipset. Like it was nice that for a while there, a lot of people were kind of hovering around that same chipset, because then it was less about the performance, and then you could actually, you could actually experiment with the design of the handheld, or like
Right.
change out, the screen, or have different aspect ratios, things like that. So I was like, okay, well, the performance, because this is the same performance as what we've
Yeah.
had before. Yeah. So
Yeah, so
it was a nice little generation.
Going back to the question about, it's too uncomfortable to hold, I would say, biggest thing for me is to gift handhelds, like especially with this chipset, there are so many different custom firm, we call them custom firmwares, but it's basically like community made software solutions, and all these things run off an SD card. So you can just swap out SD cards, get a feel for any of them, and then be like, all right, this is the one that fits me the best. And for this chipset, for the RK2020, there is a firmware called ARC-OS, RKOS, and it's another rock chip kernel OS is what it stands for. And they had, specifically this chipset, or this custom firmware, had a theme that worked really well within Emulation Station, where you could pare it down a bunch and remove all sorts of things, to the point where you could make it easy enough for kids to get in and out of, where all they have to do is just see the name of the game, not even the name, just the cover of the game, pick that cover, the game starts, they can close out of it by pressing start and select, it'll take them back, or they can just hold on to the power button, all those kind of things. I made a whole video about it, actually. We can put it in the show notes, but it was basically how to make a handheld for kids, and it was with this Rockchip RK3326. So the RK2020 could absolutely be made as a handheld for kids. Give it to somebody and just like watch their eyes explode.
That's awesome. Or a parent. Be
Yeah,
like,
or a
hey,
parent.
you're retired. Why don't you sit around and play some games?
Actually, thinking about it, I think the guide was called "Making a Handheld for Children," and then in like parentheses, or adult children. So
there you go. Is there any other questions you want to take before we get out of here?
So there was one good question. I think it kind of comes back to our like used game kind of idea, is that somebody was saying, EN Sol says, is it truly worth getting a case like the one from Dbrand or others for the original Xbox Ally Z1 Extreme, since the ergonomics suck, or is it best to just save that money? Been contemplating that, or a possible battery upgrade for mine, but I've been using it without a case for a better part of 2 years. And so I got some thoughts about it, but do you got any ideas?
That one specifically, definitely doesn't have the best ergonomics. Like it's always a trade-off, right? Like how portable do you want it to be? How easy it is to put in a backpack? Yeah. It's much easier than like the Xbox Ally X, right? With the big grips, but nowhere near as comfortable. So and it sounds like they've been using it for a couple years already. So I don't know. I didn't think it was as bad as the original, or the Switch. Like the Switch, especially the first one, like I played mostly in handheld, and oh my goodness, like that thing would literally just make my hands cramp. Horrible. Like I've never experienced better ergonomics on a handheld than the Switch. So I would call this the Ally better than that. But I mean, also, I don't really care that much about battery life, but it sounds like you're contemplating the difference between, should I get better ergonomics or get better battery life? Like, I guess it depends on what they use, because like a battery, like especially if you're taking it on the go, on a flight, whatever, like that's the legit difference. Yeah.
So for me, I feel like if you've already had the Z1 Extreme Ally for a couple of years and you already think that the ergonomics are bad, they're not going to magically get better. Personally, for me, I actually find that one to be very comfortable because it's so lightweight, so it doesn't really bother me that much. And so I've always really liked the feel of that and never put anything on it. In fact, I've bought the Dbrand kill switch for this thing and didn't like it, took it off. I spent like $50 to find out that I didn't like it, basically. So I wouldn't recommend that kill switch for the Ally Z1 Extreme. But there is an Etsy shop called Comfort Grips. So this guy makes these like snap-on 3D printed like grips. And some people love them, some people don't. I personally do love them, and I have tried them on this device, and it does improve the ergonomics, adds a little bit of bulk. But they're only like $23, I think. And they've got a bunch of different options. And so that's one thing. It's what I had to do with the Z1, the Ally X, so the one that has the bigger battery. It's heavier. That one didn't feel very nice ergonomically for me. So the Comfort Grips were the solution for me on that one in particular. So you got a couple options. I would say that not the Dbrand one personally. It doesn't enhance the ergonomics in any way, really. It just kind of protects the device. And if you already think the ergonomics are bad, it's not going to make them better.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Well, we'll put that Etsy link in the description as well. So, okay. Well, I think we should call it here.
Yeah.
We've been talking for a bit. How does it feel to chat?
It's good.
For so long, Russ.
Yeah, this is great. We've been talking about this podcast for months, and so now that we're actually doing it, I'm having a lot of fun. So I'm actually already thinking like, oh man, I can't wait to talk about this next episode. So. It's a good sign. I'm having fun.
Yeah, we got plenty of stuff coming up. That's the thing is that I think there's always going to be something to talk about, whether it's news or diving deeper into reviews or answering questions. Like the amount of questions we have, we didn't even get to all of them, but the amount of questions we've been getting is pretty awesome, and we want to help as best we can. So let us know what you think. I think also at this point we should be on every major podcast platform or the RSS feed for the audio stuff. We don't have video enabled for any of those. That's something I'm actually looking into is allowing for the video version to be also put out over RSS. But we don't have anything in there yet. But if there is a podcast platform that we're not on, just let me know and I can submit it. In whatever form that I need to. But for the most part, I think we're covered. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, Pocket Casts is personally my favorite one. Overcast, I think I got us on. So yeah, or you can even just I in the description I put the actual like vanilla RSS feed, so you can just pull the feed itself if that's easier too. So yeah. That's it. We did it.
We did
Russ.
it. Number one.
It's in the bag. The expedition has started. Like the first one's over. That's it. We got a little bit of the leg done. We're gonna pause at base camp here, take a little break, and be back next week. We don't have an intro or an outro. I didn't think about an outro.
Yeah, I just add that every journey starts with one step, and this was that step. We're here.
There you go. There'll never be another episode 1. Like this is the only one. We did it. Well, thank you, Russ, for hanging out with me. I cannot wait to see where this journey goes. And I thank everyone for following along with us on this. So, yeah. And until then, we need like a catchy sign off, like ice your feet, maybe put a little icy hot on your swollen calves, because we've been journeying so long.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't think of anything.
Well, let us know in the comments, what you want us to say. Maybe that'll come out good, or it be very bad. We'll see.
There you go. Nice. Awesome. Well, thanks, Russ. Thanks, everybody. And we will catch you in the
guys.
next one. Bye.
Bye.